20th regular meeting of the Medford City Council is called to order for May 17th, 2022. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice President Bears.
Present.
Counselor Carviallo. Counselor Collins.
Present.
Counselor Knight.
Present.
Counselor Scarpelli. Counselor Singh.
Present.
President Morrell.
Present, 7 present, 0 absent. Please rise to salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam President, motion to suspend the rules.
On the motion of Counselor Knight to suspend the rules to take a paper out of order.
That is correct, Madam President. I'd like to take the last paper on the agenda out of order for this evening. Paper 22356, a request for an expenditure from the Law Department.
On the motion of Counselor Knight to take paper 22-356 out of order, seconded by Counselor Scarpelli. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes. I'm missing part of that. Sorry, here, just to make sure I have everything. 22-356, request for expenditure. Thank you. From Law Department for claims over $1,000. To President Nicole Morrell and honorable members of the Medford City Council from Brandon Longo Kern. Claimant name Adam Hurtubise. Date of incident April 1st, 2021. Date of trial result not applicable. Amount of request $2,850. Claimant's attorney not applicable. Description of alleged claim. The claimant Adam Hurtubise seeks reimbursement of fees paid as a result of sewer damage to his property on Saunders Street in Medford, Massachusetts. The case was settled prior to trial. The necessary release has been obtained from the claimant. Breakdown of amount requested: medical costs 0, lost wages 0, property damage $2,850, other 0, and total settlement $2,850.
Wait.
Mr. Hurtubise would like to speak just for a moment.
I have to recuse myself. This is obviously my house. It's sewage damage to my basement. So just to avoid any appearance of any kind of conflict of interest, the Assistant City Clerk is going to preside for this, going to record this vote total.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you, Madam Clerk. So on the motion of Counselor Carviallo to approve, second by Vice President Bears, any discussion? I do not see her on the call.
The only reason I ask is because we're, the clerk's an employee of the council. Would we need to invoke the rule of necessity to properly appropriate the funds? You know, concerned about that.
Okay.
But I certainly have no problem approving the funds. And the gentleman had a sewage backup into his house, and I certainly warranted remediation. Question is whether or not how we take the vote. Do we take the vote as a straight roll call vote as we usually do, or do we have to invoke the rule of necessity, or does it matter? Because the city solicitor has not provided us with an opinion. It does matter. It doesn't. So I would just like to be on the record that, you know, I raised the issue.
Thank you, Counselor Knight. So on the motion of Counselor Carviallo, second by Vice President Bears, Madam Clerk, if you could please call the roll.
Okay, Vice President Bears.
Yes.
Counselor Carviallo.
Yes.
Counselor Collins.
Yes.
Counselor Knight.
Yes.
Counselor Scarpelli. Counselor Singh.
Yes.
President Morrell.
Yes. 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, the motion passes. On the motion of Counselor Knight to revert back to regular order of business, second by Counselor Scarpelli. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes. I'll give a moment for the clerk to
Okay.
come back up. I know when you're ready, Mr. Clerk. Okay. Announcements, accolades, remembrances, reports, and records. Records. The tabled records of the May 3rd, 2022 meeting were passed to Counselor Carviallo. Counselor Carviallo, how did you find them?
Madam President, I had the opportunity to review them, and I do find them in order. Motion for approval.
Second.
On the motion of Counselor Carviallo, seconded by Vice President Bears. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes. The records of the meeting of May 10th, 2022 were passed to Counselor Collins. Counselor Collins, how did you find them?
I found them in order and I move for approval.
On the motion of Counselor Collins, seconded by
Second.
Vice President Bears, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Reports of committees, 20-024, May 10th, 2022, Committee of the Whole report to follow. Why am I blanking on what this was?
Affordable Housing Trust.
Oh, this is, okay, this is the second meeting on the Affordable Housing Trust. We had a number of changes, and we're waiting for feedback from the city as well as council. On the motion of Councilor Knight to approve, second by
Second.
Vice President Bears, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion passes. Announcements, accolades, and remembrances. 22-351, offered by Vice President Bears. Be it resolved that the Medford City Council that we recognize and celebrate Haitian Heritage Month and Haitian Flag Day on Wednesday, May 18th. Vice President Bears.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd move to join this with Councillor Singh's motion 22-352.
On the motion of Vice President Bears to join
Second.
22-351 and 22-352, second by Councilor Carviallo. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Councillor Singh, as well. I'm glad that we had the same thought on this one. As folks know, this is Haitian Heritage Month, and Haitian Flag Day is on Wednesday. I do know there was a ceremony at the Andrews School over the weekend, which I think is fantastic as well. And I just think it's a great chance for us to recognize and honor our Haitian American community here in Medford. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Bears. Councilor Singh.
The Haitian community is significant here, and they've done a lot to move our city forward, especially as our city is doing better now to engage with our Haitian community here in Medford through the Haitian Community Task Force. And I wanted to commend their efforts too, and their successful event on Saturday that Councilor Bears mentioned, which I was able to attend. I believe there's a flag raising later this week as well, which members of our community are welcome to attend. All of our communities are important to us, and I think it's I think the city council definitely is very a champion of inclusivity and a champion of inclusive measures. Earlier in our session, we as a city council passed a resolution supporting Haitian migrants in Medford, which actually through a collaboration with neighboring cities actually did have an effect in changing the administration's policies, which the Biden administration stated. And I'm proud of our council's work in the last few months to make sure that we are making Medford a home for everyone, and our Haitian community is part of that.
Thank you, Councilor Singh. Any further discussion? On the motion of Vice President Bears, seconded by Councilor Singh. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes. Petitions, presentations, and similar papers, 22-339, petition for grant of location. On the motion
Second.
of Councilor Knight to waive the reading, seconded by Vice President Bears. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Do we have anyone in person or on the line for this grant of location from National Grid? We did have the information in our packets this week. Not, let's see. I know, I'm not, sorry, go ahead. If there's anyone on the line who can speak to this grant of location from National Grid, if you could raise your hand. I'm not seeing anyone motioning so far. On the motion of Councilor Knight to table, seconded by Councilor Scarpelli. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. I'll keep an eye and see if anyone shows up. Motions, orders, and resolutions. 22-353, offered by Vice President Bears. Be it resolved that the Medford City Council, and the mayor invite DCR Commissioner Stephanie Cooper to Medford to conduct a site visit of DCR roads, parks, and properties in the city of Medford, and meet with the mayor, council, state delegation members, city staff members, and local advocates. Be it further resolved that the goals of this meeting are to detail the great benefits and significant impacts of DCR-owned ways and properties on the city of Medford, and improve communication between DCR, the city of Medford, and the residents of Medford to ensure prompt and collaborative responses to improve conditions for all stakeholders. Be it further resolved that the mayor send a copy of this resolution and invitation to Senator Jalen's office, as the senator has graciously offered to help set up the visit. Vice President Bears.
Thank you, Madam President. So I think as this council is well aware, as many councilors here have put forward resolutions regarding the DCR and the state of the properties in our community, that there's a lot of work that we really need DCR to step up on in terms of keeping their ways and properties clean, making sure that their construction projects are communicated with the city and that they're making the improvements that we want to see as a community. And that we also have, clean and safe and fair access to all of the parks and those great benefits that we have from DCR managed properties as well. And I think as this council knows, the responses to us have been either slow or non-existent. And the same is true of the city staff, the mayor as well. And I think given the advocacy of this council and the municipality, as well as a number of resident organizations, Walk Medford, the newly formed Route 16 Coalition, which is looking at the entire stretch of Route 16 and trying to improve that, as well as I think what likely will form between Medford and Malden, some work around the Fellsway and improvements on that property. I think it's time that we invite the new commissioner of DCR down here to meet with us, to hear our concerns directly, to meet with city staff and build stronger lines of communication so we can get those prompt and speedy responses to our requests, as well as having a clear and, advance notice when DCR is going to come in and impact our community. And I think this is a way to do it. I was meeting with Senator Jalen and we kind of discussed this, and she thought it would be good for the council to originate this. I did speak with the mayor and she was in favor of this as well. So I'm sure that with this council's support, that all of us can work together to get the DCR folks down here to make a real impact and try to make a real change in the relationship between the city of Medford and DCR. So I ask for my colleagues' support, and I hope that this effort can try to jumpstart the work that we've already been doing around this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Bears. Councilor Carviallo.
Thank you, Madam President. Again, something I've done, I think almost every year since I've been on the council is being on the DCR, MDC, whatever they change their name on it all the time. But like Councilor Bear says, we've got so much property that's owned by them and they leave it in such disrepair. And, there's a lot of stuff that are safety hazards. For the last 3 years, we have the kayaking and the club down there. There's been that tree in the middle of the water for 3 years now. I've asked every year for them to at least get the tree out of there so people don't get hurt when they go by there. Still there. But again, it's like the roads, all their properties are all on disarray. And again, I support this with Councilor Bears. Yeah, something that I've been on them every single year to do is stay on top of their property because I think we have our fair share of our DCR property here. That should at least be clean, trimmed, and kept in an orderly fashion. So I'll second Councilor Bears' motion.
Thank you, Councilor Carviallo. Any further discussion? Councilor Knight.
Madam President, thank you very much. I know that there are a number of DCI-owned properties that have service contracts with the city, where the city is afforded the opportunity to maintain and upkeep certain properties. One of those being the Condon Shell that Councilor Carviallo is speaking of down at Sleepy Hollow. So I just ask that as part of this paper that we get a copy of all the service and maintenance agreements that we have with the DCR. So we know who's responsible for what. Ultimately, it is the DCR's land, but the city in the past has signed on to be responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of certain parcels. So for us to make an informed decision, I think we need to know what parcels those are and whether or not those agreements still exist. And whether or not they need to be maybe beefed up a little bit to get us what community needs and benefits necessary for the taxpayers.
Thank you, Councilor Knight. Would you like it to be an amendment?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any further discussion? I also just want to thank Vice President Bears for bringing this forward. I know it's frustrating for residents. It's frustrating for us. Anytime that someone raises an issue when we realize it's a DCR road, a DCR property, and we know that oftentimes we're going to hit our head against the wall trying to get something done. So hopefully this can help us move on that subject. So on the motion of Vice President Bears as amended, Councilor Sang.
Thank you. I was just also going to mention, during my time here, during the session, we've passed countless resolutions on DCR property, trying to get it clean, trying to get things fixed, trying to make things more accessible, more friendly to residents. It is certainly frustrating to see the lack of response from the DCR. And because of the structures, you know, the institutional structures, the accountability is just not there right now. And I thank Vice President Bears for introducing this, because I think this is one of the ways that we can leverage our power as a city council and as the city of Medford to try to get the DCR to do better and to do more for our city.
Thank you, Counselor Singh. On the motion of Vice President Bears as amended by Counselor Knight, seconded by Counselor Singh. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes.
Madam President,
Vice President Bears.
motion to take paper 22339 off the table.
And I do just want to note that, thank you. Oh, great. That's the one. On the motion of Vice President Bears to take 22-339 off the table, as we do have a representative with us now, seconded by Counselor Knight. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Petition presentations and similar papers, 22-339, petition for a grant of location, National Grid, North Andover, Massachusetts, relocation of utility pole jointly owned with Horizon New England, Medford, Massachusetts. I do believe we have a representative from National Grid with us. If you could please come to the podium, share your name and address for the record, please, and just give us an overview of the proposed project we're looking at.
Correct. John Jankowski, 170 Medford Street in Malden, Mass. I apologize for being late. And I was here on last week. I couldn't get on.
Sorry about that. Thank you
I
for coming
remember
back.
when Robert Penta called, so I was there. I just couldn't get on. I apologize for that. So that pole is going to be relocated. They're going to build an underground residential development there. And they're going to have to move it 15 feet, I believe. The road won't be disturbed. It's just the panels, the sidewalk. So if you have any questions or concerns, I can definitely answer those questions.
Counselor Scarpelli.
When do we expect the work to be done? As soon as possible. I know they're doing some work out there, so I
Right.
assume
Is it daytime hours and
Oh, yeah.
and how long would that take? One
Oh,
day?
it'd be just one day, really.
All right. And would it impact any neighbors, driveways or anything?
I don't believe so, no.
All right. If that's the case, I'm fine with that.
Thank you, Counselor
Thank
Scarpelli.
you.
Vice President Bears.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for being here. If for the panels that are disturbed, are they just going to be replaced with concrete?
of course.
Or, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And this is a little out of scope, so I understand if you can't answer it right now, but it was something I was thinking of last week when we were taking a look at this. Is there any long-term plan by National Grid, and I know Verizon co-owns these poles as well, for moving services underground, or is that not really on the radar right now?
No. It's an overhead area, so.
Yeah.
Gonna stay overhead.
Okay,
If someone wants to go underground, then there'll be a cost involved in that. I assume,
Yeah.
but-
okay, thank you.
Any further discussion?
Motion for approval, Madam President.
I just have one question. So I know there's obviously long-term work there with that new development. These sidewalk panels, you'll do the work and it will be replaced immediately, and then whatever happens down the line happens down the line, not waiting for that project to fully replace them.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. On the motion of Counselor Knight to approve, seconded by
Second.
Counselor Carviallo. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Motion to revert back to regular business, Madam President.
On the motion of Counselor Knight to revert back to regular order of business, seconded by Counselor Sang. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes. 22-354, offered by President Morrell. I will read from the chair unless anyone objects.
No objection.
Be it resolved that the Medford City Council, by the Medford City Council, that councilors submit proposals or ideas for the FY23 city budget to the city clerk by Monday, May 23rd at 3 p.m. for consideration at the city council's FY23 budget proposal committee of the whole meetings to be scheduled for Tuesday, May 24th and Wednesday, May 25th as needed. So this paper is before us. I think since the then new administration came in 2 years ago, there was the hope of having these pre-budget meetings, and for whatever reason, they've never materialized, and this is just the intention to take things into our own hands to at least communicate what we as a council are seeking from the budget, rather than getting the budget delivered to us kind of at the last hour and really not having as much wiggle room as we like. So that is my intention. I would hope to schedule them for Tuesday, and if we need to, we can go to Wednesday as well for next week.
Move approval.
Any further discussion?
Second.
On the motion of Counselor Knight, seconded by Vice President Bears. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, the motion passes. 22-355, offered by Counselor Carviallo. Be it resolved that the Medford City Council have the company that installed the bocce courts at Riverside Ave return to repair them with the proper materials and make them the proper size. Counselor Carviallo.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, this is the third time I've had this on the agenda. City of Medford went out and hired a company that supposedly does tennis courts and bocce courts. And anyone I know, I don't know very much about bocce, but I know those aren't bocce courts. Those are sand pits. And the bocce courts don't have sand in them, they have clay, and they're too big. And again, I can't believe we paid money to a company to put in bocce courts that, again, for people to play on them that are just not bocce courts, they're just sand. If you throw the ball, the ball just sinks. I mean, you know, and I said, supposedly a company does it. So this is my third time asking to them. If not, I say, make a motion that we have the city solicitor file suit against them to bring them up to where they're supposed to be considered a bocce court, not a sandbox.
Thank you, Counselor Carviallo. Any further discussion?
Madam President, I just asked that this paper also be sent to the Director of Recreation. I know the Recreation Department's been expanding their programming related to bocce. If you look at the recreation booklet, you'll see that they have pickup games, I guess is what you want to call it, a bocce down there as well. So I think this is something that the Recreation Department's really trying to take a look at, investing some energy and effort into, and having the state of the art quality facilities is what's going to really increase participation, I think. So I think it's a great measure. The bocce courts is something I was always very supportive of. I was the sponsor of the initial resolve under the Burke administration that brought these to fruition. And Councilor Carviallo is right. The specs are not up to community standards.
Thank you, Counselor Knight. And Counselor Carviallo, do you want to amend the paper?
Yes, that if it's not repaired, that we have the city solicitor go after the company financially to repair or some type of reimbursement, and we'll do it on our own. I mean, not that big of a deal. All you gotta do is come in with some clay, put it down there, but probably an hour's worth of work, 2 hours worth of work. So again, it's been 3 years. We waiting for this to get done.
Thank you, Counselor Carviallo. On the motion of Counselor Carviallo, as amended by Counselor Carviallo and Counselor Knight, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes.
Madam-
On the motion of Counselor Knight to take 22317 and 22318 from the table, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. 22317, the loan order for sidewalk bonds is eligible for its third reading on May 17th, 2022. I do believe, is there any current discussion on this? I do believe we have representatives from the administration that are able to speak to this.
Good evening, councilors. It's McGivern. Now I'm the DPW commissioner. So, and Owen Motella with me. He is the new city engineer. You haven't met him already?
I'm the new city engineer. I'm Owen.
Thank you both. And we did have a number of questions addressed by Chief of Staff Nassarian, but I think also if you are able to more speak to the work that could be anticipated with this bond, but of course, there's specific questions from my fellow counselors. Yeah, we have a presentation. Go ahead. And
We have no presentation. Basically,
you have a map.
We have a map, yes. So we were going to and have this digitally as well, if you want to share it with the Zoom.
I can do that.
So this is a heat map for the sidewalks of priority. So basically going back in 2021, the city did a study on sidewalks, on the state of the sidewalks, which ones are priority. And within that report, it gave the amount of money that our backlog is, and it showed the state of the sidewalks, and it also showed the hot zones, and it created this presentation map here, which overlays it's a heat map with the priority of the sidewalk state.
Yeah, I would add to that the other piece of data that's used is the amount of pedestrian traffic that is going towards the central location. So a lot of these are schools, hospitals, T stations, major bus areas, things like that. So that's what this map identifies. So it helps the engineers try to figure out where to focus the attention. I will mention that this is really the first year that we're using 2 sets of data as opposed to 1. The 1 set that was used prior to this year was a list of sidewalk repair requests that the DPW maintains. That list is, approximately 1,700 locations long and, reports long. And we were going by that prior, but now this makes the data a lot more rich and usable because now we're able to say, okay, well, we know what we want to do, what the heat map tells us, and what this set of data is telling us, and then we're able to cross-reference it with the requests that are being made by the public to make sure that we're putting a list together for the contractor, the engineer, or even in-house as well to know what we need to be focusing our attention on. So that's a key difference, I think, from other years. Also, another key difference I just want to point out is that we know what we need to do now, which we didn't really before because we did not have this assessment. So we have a very good idea of how much money we need to spend, how much planning we need to do to get to where we need to be. And, I'm confident we'll get there, but it is going to take all the tools in the toolbox approach. So one of the reasons I'm here is to try to explain in-house what I'm looking at strategically to get us to a place in-house where we can do more sidewalk work and we can do more street and road work, to be honest. So that's things like right now, evaluating the use of a sidewalk grinder so we can take care of a lot of the obstructions that have been reported both by residents as well as the data that was collected as part of this project. And we can probably take care of a lot of those in-house with just grinding down the heat panel. So that's one thing that I'm trying to do. And then I am also trying to talk strategy about our highway department and how to get them the resources that they need. For example, we're looking at a used spreader machine so we can do more in-house paving. So we started doing more in-house patching, but we're doing it by hand. So I'm looking at getting the equipment so we can even become more efficient at that. That strategy is slower, and we also know we have the immediate need of sidewalk repair work to do. So in my mind, it's really both. We're doing in-house strategy and figuring out the best way to do that and grow that. And then in the meantime, we know we have these 1,700 locations and we have this data that tells us where we need to be. So we're basically ready to go with the locations, and maybe you can talk more about the specific locations with a contractor to do, the 1 million over 2 years, really try to get as many locations as we can resolve. So that's the pitch I'm making for that piece.
So yeah, the last bond, we were able to do about 220 to 250 locations per year. And this year we anticipate that number will probably go down due to inflation. But that's why we have roughly, I think the studies said we have around 2,100 locations to do within the city. And, this heat map basically helps us prioritize those.
Thank you both. Councilor Scarpelli and then
Yeah.
Vice President Bears and Councilor Carviallo.
So first, thank you for coming out tonight. I know that, first I want to thank Chief of Staff Nazarian. I had some questions last week, and I've been championing a sidewalk hot top crew for, I think, since the year I started. I think that until we do that, and it's good to hear that we're trying to find some equipment and have some on-site with our staff, but until we do that, even if we catch up, if this isn't ongoing year-round, as soon as the cement is mixed and we can start pouring cement, it's just gonna continue. You know as well as I do. So I'm glad to see that we're trying something. I did talk to the mayor, and I know we have some budget concerns coming up, and I know it's difficult hiring a whole new crew, but it's something that when you keep coming to us and the city keeps coming to us and asking for $250,000, $1 million, it's frustrating. And I'm sure you can understand that. It's frustrating because this isn't an issue that just happened this year. This is something that's been going on for years. So, I've always been taught to think ahead. and try to find a way, not only to try to fix a solution, but make sure we stay ahead of that problem as we move forward. So those are my concerns and my questions. I think that with that, the other concerns I had were the fact that unfortunately, the procurement system is that it has to go out to bid. And what I fear, and working in the municipality, I get a different advantage by talking to colleagues that I work with and understanding the lack of true contractors that are out there that aren't busy, that aren't working, that can do masonry work. That's a piece that I'm hoping we have licensed masons or people that work with cement. I hear in some communities that they're bidding out to landscapers and they're making big bucks because they can bid for an easy buck because no one else is bidding for them. So we just want to make sure that we're handling that the correct way and making sure that we're staying on top of that. Because again, we have a crew that comes out there and uses the wrong mix or pours it the wrong way or whatnot, or slopes it the wrong way. And now it's turned into a rain issue in someone's neighborhood, someone's property. So these are concerns that it's comical that people just listen to your concerns that you want to express as a counselor that constituents have asked for and said, shame on you for not wanting to fix sidewalks. You'd be a fool not to want to fix sidewalks. Okay, I think everybody here wants that done. I think making sure that all of our questions are answered and we're putting the best foot forward, which I think the assessment's a great step. I know that I've talked to the mayor and people from what I gather, we're looking at the most needy sidewalks, where most dangerous sidewalks, correct? It's not going to be, people aren't going to jump because somebody calls from one side of the city or not, and everything wants to get done in front of this person's house or that. We're going to go after the number one sidewalks.
That's correct. Yeah, we're still going to track
Right.
complaints coming in, and that's not going to change. And we do cross-reference that list, which is a spreadsheet with this one. And even if we get it more than once, that's logged in the spreadsheet as well. So we try to capture everything in the DPW that comes in. But this is a whole new set of data that really allows us to hone in on not just the most dangerous areas, but the areas that have the most pedestrian traffic, and that we want to focus in on as representing the public, trying to do the best for the public. And I will say that the long-term plan, in my mind, as the DPW commissioner, is to do just what you explained. It's just it's a longer arc. And I am a new person at the helm at DPW. And I think hopefully you've seen what I've tried to do in engineering is sort of steer the ship towards making sure that our data is backing up the work that we're doing. And I think a lot of people are familiar with the assessments at this point. Really to keep ahead of ourselves and to match the deterioration rate with the work that we need to put into it, whether it's in-house or contract. The estimates are about $2.5 million worth of effort annually. So the half a million dollars that we're talking about is just a piece of a much bigger puzzle. We're going to, in my opinion, we're going to need to be building our in-house capacity as well as doing contract work for many years to catch up with ourselves and to get the 1,700 locations down and to make sure we're focusing our attention and our resources on the hotspots located on this map. So I think that's what I'm really focused on that piece.
Well, I appreciate that. And this is why this meeting is so important. Appreciate you coming out tonight. I think that the last piece is in the past, we've asked for lists. We've asked, just tell us, the proof is in the pudding. People want to see. So when we would ask in the past, can we have a list? It was daunting. So I'm glad to see that we have this assessment that we can actually now chart and follow the data as we're taking them off. So I know I talked to the mayor and she said that that's not going to be a difficult task now. We can now be informed of, maybe monthly updates saying this is what we did and this is where we're going. So it gives us a good understanding what's getting done so we can actually see it. And, the question a lot of times in the past is we just bonded $250,000 and it doesn't seem like we've done anything. Well, it was tough for us to say, well, look at this area, because we didn't know. So I think that it's important that we get that data as well.
You are highlighting a very important point, and I think that we want to provide that information, and I believe, I don't want to speak for all, but I've just been around this sort of work for a while, and I think in previous years, because the engineering office has done a lot of the resident engineer work for this project in the prior years, there's this desire to want to get it all done, and there's a desire to satisfy the squeaky wheel, so to speak.
Yeah.
And those are very strong desires. So I think what has happened in the past is we don't always know where the resources are going to be focused necessarily. We have this great list, we have inspections in the field, and we have the anecdotal and the institutional knowledge. So that's what we were going by, right? This time, it's like I was saying, and that it's really the point I want to keep highlighting. It's different this time, and I think if we're doing it the way we'd like to do it and focusing on the data and approaching it in that way, it will be much easier for us to provide something like a monthly update. Say, here's what we did this month. Here's what we're planning on doing next month. That's something that I think we can definitely do.
If we can make that into a motion, that'd be, to ask for the DPW commissioner for, once this project gets started, even for a monthly update, that would be great. And I'll end on a personal note. Kid you not, as I'm walking in here, fellow councilors heard my wife call me crying. Avid runner, marathon runner, going for a nightly run, raised sidewalk, her foot hit the top of the raised sidewalk, and now my daughter's taking her to the doctor. So and this is stuff that, this is what you wish that, as we're going through, it's that important. And I'm sure I'm just one case. And so it's imperative that we need to get these sidewalks fixed. We need to focus on our infrastructure. It's a vital piece of our community. We all know that. So, and again, the questions I brought up in last week's meeting were, I think, very valid, and I appreciate the answers. I think that between the chief of staff, the mayor, and two fine gentlemen in front of us, I think that I'm satisfied with what direction we're moving into, and I hope we see some real movement, and I appreciate that. So thank you.
Ken Scarpelli, would you like to make that motion a B paper?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Vice President Bears.
Thank you, Madam President. I was talking to Commissioner McGivern the other day and made the faux pas that I thought he'd been around for like a decade because of how much work he's done in the last 3 or 4 years. So you have big shoes to fill, but
Just mentioning that to somebody else today.
I'm confident that you will. But I just to follow up on actually one of Councilor Scarpelli's questions, one of the things we were talking about last month was trying to get this out a little early, get the first reading done in April so we could try to get bids and procurement out. Has that happened, or are we waiting for this third reading to start the procurement process?
You want to answer?
No, go ahead.
It has been procured, and we did receive some bids, and they're high, like Owen was mentioning. So
Okay.
Those bids do reflect the inflation. So the way that we would do that is work with the contractor.
Point of information, sorry. Qualified bidders though, Tim, are we getting qualified construction companies that?
I didn't get that detailed, but I know you and Mark probably did it.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you, and thank you, Councilor
Thank you,
Scarpelli.
sir. Thank you.
No, you're fine. So that leads into my next question. Obviously going to support this. I think it's good. I think whatever work we can do to try to at least stay afloat, right? Not keep things from getting worse. That's sometimes maybe the best we can do with the limited conditions that we have right now. But as I recall, we had, and I'm just trying to remember the numbers in my head, you probably have them in yours, the $100 million backlog, that was streets and sidewalks together, correct?
There's 51, as of 2021, there's reports say that there was 51+ million in resurfacing work for roadways. The sidewalks are around 31 plus, closer to 32 million in backlog.
Right, okay, thank you. That's 31 numbers what I was looking for. So, and do we expect that those numbers have increased since 2021 just with the inflation and?
Those are they're conservative numbers when they do these types of reports.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're starting to approach that sort of getting close to that conservative number. just based on cost of materials.
Okay, great. Well, terrible, but, but it's good to have the information.
Yeah.
So you said the 2.5 million a year, that's what we're kind of trying to piece together. This was going to be 500,000. You know, just doing the math in my head, since how long is it going to take us at current investment levels to get to a state of good repair?
This sidewalks is tougher to answer that question because we didn't have a full condition index economic analysis like we did with the pavement, which
Yeah.
really laid it out in that
Yeah.
report. Sidewalks, that we didn't have that type of work done. But, you know, $500,000 a year of just contract work, you know, obviously is not going to cut it. It's got to be some combination, and I don't know what the combination is of in-house work and contract work for a while to get to a place where we don't have backlog anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know how long that will take.
Okay, thank you for the honesty and the directness. And I think, you know, again, you've heard me make this point a million times before, and I'm just going to make it again for the sake of making it. People are getting hurt on the sidewalks. We know that there's a sidewalk problem. We know the reason of decades of disinvestment in sidewalks. We know how important it is to have good, high quality sidewalks and streets for people to be safe, for all modes of transportation, for all of the issues with collisions and crashes and injuries that happen on streets and sidewalks. Never mind that we are also probably have liability exposure on things like that, as we know from some of the cases that have come against the city. And I really do think it's imperative, and this obviously is not in your purview, but I'm just saying it anyway, that, you know, this council and the city administration come up with a plan to significantly invest in the backlogs of capital needs this community has. I think this community is ready for it. I hear people asking for it. I hear people from all across the political spectrum all the time saying, what's wrong with our roads? What's wrong with our sidewalks? What's wrong with our high school? Why don't we have a fire headquarters? And I think that if we all came together across, you know, different political beliefs, different, you know, voting groups, that we could come up with a package and a plan that the people of this community would support to address those long-term needs and get us on a good footing where we can actually start to think about the go-forward basis and keeping things in good repair, not thinking about how long it's going to take us just to get there. So again, I'm going to support this tonight, but I think it's pretty clear that we have a lot more investment and a lot more work to do in the long run. And I'm going to keep making that point from this seat, and I hope that all of our colleagues in city government will come together and help us with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Barris. Councilor Carviallo.
Thank you, Madam President. Oh, and, congratulations on your new job. So if I'm looking at the map, the red ones are the high priority, correct? So with this $1 million, how much of that high priority are we going to get done?
So
Do you think we're going to get done?
as I mentioned before, the number of locations that we typically do is around 220 to 250 a year. And we're probably going to do a little bit less this year, so probably closer to 200. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
So to repeat, basically, we typically do around 220 to 250 locations a year. And this year, due to inflation, we're expecting probably a little bit less than that, like on the lower end.
So
So
how many reds, how many panels are in that red group there?
it depends on the location. So the way that this was mapped out on visually.
Guesstimate.
Well, the way that it was mapped out was on segments of roadway. Most of those segments are one location. Sometimes there's two. So on average, it's +1. So that's, you know, that's times 200. So those.
Okay. But again, I say, how much of the red are we going to get done this year? Are we going to cut that red in half?
I think there's a lot more red than.
I see there's an awful lot of red there.
Right.
I don't want to, but 3 to 4 years ago, I brought in the company that wanted to do sidewalk grinding here, and we kind of let it, you know, no one ever contacted them, and along with the company that ground and milled the asphalt right on site. So as they ground, they put it back on, and you know, we could probably get, you know, on secondary roads, and we could probably be paving 2 streets for the price of 1.
Right.
And again, that was brought in, and it kind of went nowhere. Yeah, I know.
Didn't go nowhere.
Well, I know, well, I don't know where it is now, but I say that was brought in some years ago. And again, that just didn't materialize. That maybe it's a better word.
Also, the red priority is also non-compliant ADA ramps. So those are,
Yeah.
a lot more of a priority to try to fix those first.
And I share the same concern, Council Scarpelli's concern. So, we're late into the construction season. And by the time this goes out to bid and we bond it, maybe we might be starting in August, maybe July.
6 to 8 weeks to July.
July, okay, so, I mean, and I'm concerned about the quality of company that we're gonna be able to attract, because everybody's, no matter what city or town you drive through,
Well,
there's construction going on everywhere, and everywhere in this whole state is happening, the construction,
just to be clear, we have bids already.
right? And who's gonna be monitoring, are we gonna have someone, like somewhat of a clerk of the works on these?
Yes.
Yes.
And who will that be?
Yeah,
An engineer from the engineering office, for the past couple of years now, has been being both resident engineer and sort of design engineer at the same time on this type of work. So in other words, the design part is helping the contractor figuring out the scope of the spot. So if it's a key panel, is it just that panel? Oh, that one next to it is also not compliant, so let's do that one at the same time. So we have an engineer doing that, and then we also have an engineer checking quality control and measuring for payment. So those are the two sort of points that we have.
Now, in those red streets that I'm assuming we're doing those first, if there's a stump there, we're gonna be removing the stump at the same time.
the stumps are under a different.
I know it's a different, but if one of the stumps is located on the red, and if they happen to be on that street, are we gonna do both at the,
The stumps are under a different contract that I don't believe was analyzed.
I know we have another,
Prioritize differently. I know what you're saying. I
Yeah.
think we're gonna try to find those synergies
Yeah.
if we can. But we do have a contract list for stumps, so each location is scoped out. And then we have another list of stumps that is just going to be ground down from sidewalk work. And then we have this just sidewalk work. So to your point, I would like to find synergies as well with those two overlapping. So we're not, working in the same spot twice.
Yeah.
But they will be two separate contractors under two separate sets of direction. And they do have the freedom of means and methods. But I think when those times when you say, oh, well, that stump needs to go and it's impairing that sidewalk, we're going to be trying to get that stump out of there. And if it's not something that we can repair correctly, we may not actually do that spot until we can repair it correctly.
so do you feel that we'll be able to get the 200 panels in, by the end of the concrete season?
I'm led to believe that we can do 200 locations if they can stretch that money that far. Yeah.
Thank you.
Counselor Singh.
Thank you, Madam President. I just had two quick questions. The first one was you had mentioned that a lot of these red sites are places with high traffic, for example, with schools, with commercial centers. Does the green line coming in change any of the prioritization for the sidewalks?
That was included in this study as a location, a pedestrian desirable location. So, yeah, the simple answer is yes.
Great, thank you. And the second short question was, how did we get to the loan order amount of 1 million? I mean, was it just because we'd done it in the past, or?
That I do not have an answer yet.
No worries. I just asked because, in times of inflation, it is actually wise to borrow more. And because of how inflation works. And so I was just saying, the point I wanted to make was, if we're in the same economic situation next year nationally with high inflation, it might be worth borrowing more if we're in a similar situation. Of course, the ideal is to have it in the city budget and to plan ahead. But that was the point I wanted to make. I also wanted to just state my kind of view on this issue. I think it's clear that we need greater investment in our infrastructure in the city, and I think there's wide political consensus for that. I think that This means bring things in-house so that we are creating better jobs, so that we are creating a system that's more reliable and a system that's more accountable for city council to hold our city accountable. I think ultimately this is an issue of accessibility. It's an issue of equity for different neighborhoods. As we can see on that map, different neighborhoods have fallen behind when it comes to infrastructure. Coming over to the city council meeting, we saw tons of young people, especially using our sidewalk. And as a young person, who just graduated from Medford High, oftentimes we walk from the high school to Medford Square, and these are routes that we take to go home. And it's important that we all, we keep that safe. And it's not just young people using it, of course, all of our residents use our sidewalks. So I think it's important that we get started now. And I think that's the point that you two are trying to make is, there's a big challenge ahead of us, but it's really important that we start now and that we make the investments that will make people's lives tangibly better today. And that's usually, that's the metric I use to determine my votes is, will this vote make residents' lives better? And I think you two have created a very compelling presentation as to why that is the case. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Sang. Of Councilor Collins, then we'll go back to Vice President Bears and Councilor Carviallo. Councilor Collins.
Thank you, President Morellen. Thank you so much for being here today and giving us this thorough overview of the work that this bond could help to facilitate. I'm looking forward to supporting this tonight. I just wanted to say, I think that the direction that the DPW and the engineering department is taking us in now, both with the sidewalk improvements roster, as well as things like the pavement management plan, if I'm getting that name right, that was released last year. I think that those have been very helpful tools for myself as a representative and also for the community. So we're sort of trying to get our arms around these, as you say, multi-year projects of addressing the backlog, kind of trying to chart that arc of where do we go from here and how long is it going to take? Speaking anecdotally, and when folks reach out to me and say, my street looks like this, when will that get fixed? It is not a task I enjoy to look at the plan and say, well, you're rated a yellow. So unfortunately, that means that it's not this year. That's a painful thing to have to share. At the same time, it's helpful. And to go to Vice President Bears' point, I think that it strengthens the case for taking a very thoughtful, focused look at how are we going to get to a place where we can sustainably fund capital improvements on a non-geologic timescale, and also how we're going to fund a more robust city payroll so that over time we can bring more and more of this work in-house if that's what's best for the community and best for infrastructure. So thank you again, and I think that this, as you say, data-driven approach is very useful for us, and at least for me, in metabolizing it and sharing it with the community.
Thank you, Councilor Collins. Vice President Bears.
I'll defer to Councilor Knight. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Was I repeatedly missing you?
I don't think it was intentional,
It was
Madam
not
President.
intentional. I just thought you were making chit chat. I didn't realize you needed.
Does the city replace sidewalks on private ways?
As a matter of policy, I think in the past, we have done it, the city has done it. There are issues that I'm trying to flag having to do with sidewalks on private ways. So I don't know if that answers your question. I don't think.
How about if we make it a yes or no question?
So I don't say moving forward, I'd like it to be no, but there has been some precedent that has been set. There has been some expectations that have been set. So to peel away from that, I think it's going to take some time.
So the intention would be, I guess the moving forward, the city would be moving away from paving private ways, the sidewalks of private ways, so replacing sidewalks.
I think it's, I'd like to better describe it by finding a policy that is a policy that we have some direction of moving forward on private ways, because right now, for my palate, there's too much sort of gray area on what we should or we shouldn't be doing. And if we've done it in the past, we continue to do it moving forward, especially with maintenance issues. I know public safety wise, we do make improvements if there's an issue with public safety for sure, the private ways. But I think, there's work to be done there to figure out exactly what the city should be doing and what public money should be spent on private ways. And I know that there are options set out in ordinance for folks to do work in private ways. And I know that the city can also do work in private ways, but finding where we should is the question that I have. So unfortunately, it's not yes or no. It's sort of like yes in the past, and there has been work done, and it's still sort of yes moving forward in the future. But I as the DPW commissioner, I want to make sure that we're spending public funds in the right places, and that could be private ways. I'm not saying it's not. I'm saying that there's a lot of gray area there. I'd like to see some definition of that over time.
No, but in this map with the 1,700 or the 2,100 sidewalk panels, does this include private ways in this assessment?
No.
Does not include private ways.
Just public ways. Yeah.
Not state, right?
Correct.
Correct.
This is just city.
City-owned street.
City full jurisdiction, so publicly accepted ways.
And percentage wise, number of public ways versus private ways that we have in this community.
33%.
33%. So a third of the streets in this community are private ways.
There's a lot. Yeah.
Yes, there's a lot.
So in essence, there would be a third of the streets in this community, if we expend these funds, that would receive no benefit from it, regardless of when we do it, right? Because we're not going to be paving private sidewalks going forward for right now.
If there are issues, well,
I was going to say, well, they could, because they don't just live in the private way. They, go to the public ways. So, they will experience these funds, when they go, to the T.
There's a community benefit, yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. But as the person that's said, I'm been on the list for 11 years,
I will
and then you say it's a private way, you're going to be on the list for another 11 years.
I've had those calls.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I will say that in that transition I was talking about, well, if there is a transition, I'm not sure if we're staying status quo or not. But I will say that I've highlighted some areas that are of concern with public funds and private ways. And I think that public safety is always there. So if we feel that there's a public safety issue with sidewalk repair, that would be something that we would be able to do, spend public funds on it and not have to worry about that expenditure of public funds.
And if somebody resides on a private way and they want to replace the sidewalk in front of the house, can they do it? All they have to do is pull a permit from you guys?
It's not our
They
property.
can do it.
They can do it. They even have to pull a permit from you guys.
Well,
Unless they're.
not necessarily, not by
Yeah.
default. No.
Councilor Scarpelli, point of information.
That goes ahead, someone who wants to sign up for that, public,
Mhm.
they want to pay. All they-
They just need approval from me in the form of a letter.
Yeah.
It,
We just did one.
it does happen, and what I try to be, and as city engineer, I do this, I try to be as honest with folks that call that want something like that. And the way that I describe it is that there's multiple paths you can get what you'd like to get done. Here's our path with the public money in our process. And if you do not like that timeline, then you also have the option, if you have the resources, to do it this way, just to make sure everybody understands what all of the options are in the public realm.
So we have no real assessment on a third of the streets as to what the condition of there's about a third of the streets that are private ways in the community. We did no assessment on those sidewalks whatsoever.
Yes, not the formal assessment.
Another formal assessment. Okay. I like this approach. I think that this is very helpful. You know what I mean? It looks like we're going to get more bang for our buck, right? Ultimately it's like, the sneakers that, we wear most of the rubber off of are the ones we're going to replace, right?
We're
Yes.
focusing the money where it needs to go.
Right. Yeah. So I think it makes sense. You know what I mean? We're getting bang for our buck. It's a data-driven, methodology, which we haven't seen in a long time. It's something I've been calling for a long time, so I appreciate what you're doing. I think that we need to really take a look at how we handle private ways in this community. It's not like they pay less taxes,
I agree.
right? In most instances, they pay more. So when you look at the streets that are private ways and the homes that are on them, right? Bigger houses, bigger lots and the like, right? So we need to wrap our heads around this because the taxpayers in this community should receive the same services regardless of whether or not this street has been publicly or privately accepted. That's legal mumbo jumbo. The regular citizen in this community doesn't care about that, right? What they care about is the fact, like Councilor Beer said, we can disagree on just about everything in this place. The one thing we all agree on is our roads and sidewalks are in bad shape and we need to invest in them. All right. I'm happy to spend this money. I wish there was another zero at the end of it. right? And I know you guys do too.
We do.
Right, ultimately, at the end of the day, I know you guys do too. In the future, I'm gonna call for a meeting, we can start really looking at talking about this private way stuff, because, you know, I think that, it really needs to be addressed. But, you know, you guys did a great presentation, I appreciate your work, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your new appointment, maybe permanency,
Thank you.
that's great, you've done a good job and you proved it, you know what I mean, time and time again when you come up here, so thank you very much. I appreciate your, honesty and openness in answering the questions.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Madam President, if I could just
Sure.
respond about private ways, I wholeheartedly agree, Councilman. And I think that in-house, we talk about private ways and public expenditure and how best to deal with it on a regular basis, on a day-to-day basis. And I would say that continuing that conversation with the council, we're more than happy to.
And I don't know if you know the answer to this, that does accepting more public ways increase our eligibility or benefits for funding through the State House, maybe?
It does,
Yeah.
yeah, Chapter 90. And
Chapter
I
90
think that,
roads, right?
that's one of the, we're not supposed to spend state aid on private ways. It's illegal, right? So that's one of the issues. So
Right, but if we turn these private ways into public ways, do we get
Yes.
more money too?
Yes,
Yes.
it's very easy to say that, and I think that we do have a very good idea of what needs to happen to get more private ways into the public sector. It's just from a administrative type of work. It's a big chunk of work because there's polls and levies involved,
Right.
and then maybe there's no levies, maybe there's city betterments provided or something. So and then all the title owners need to agree with what's going on. I think there's more than 50%.
There's a process, right?
There's a whole process involved. We're hopefully very soon, Freedom Way and Steve Miller Drive will be in front of this body for public acceptance, and that is a transfer from school
Yep.
to school
Yep.
owned. And even just that was, I wouldn't say onerous, but, you know, heavy on the administrative tasks. And when you're talking about private ways that are owned by potentially hundreds of other individuals.
Well, you said you gotta get 50% of the people in the street to agree to do it.
That's
You
the
gotta
goal.
get 7 people, you gotta get 4 here to agree to this, 5 here to agree to this, so that's hard enough, so I understand where you're coming
So
from.
that's the whole part, and then there's the levy part, which is how you're gonna pay for the improvements. Typically, that would be a tax on the residents, a one-time tax, to get the money to build to 6 standards.
To bring them up to
Yeah.
public way.
Or you don't do the betterments, and then both the planning board and this council would need to be okay with accepting a public way that isn't to standard.
Okay.
That's a really rough outcome.
Yeah, well, let's forget about that until I bring it up later on, because I think we're getting way off track.
No problem.
Yeah, thank you.
I just love talking.
Vice President Bears.
No, that's a helpful outline of it. Just 2 follow-up questions. There's 33% of the streets, but do we know what a percent of the mileage are private ways?
It's a little less than 3 miles.
A little less than 3. And what's our total?
Right now it's around, in my head, I have it like 8.4, but I don't
Okay.
hold me to that up.
So that 33% is
Still-
actually close to a mileage. It's not just the number of streets, it's actually the mileage of ways.
For our,
We're going to follow up and give you the correct information. I don't think that's right.
okay.
We'll
That's-
need to follow up and give you the correct-
That's fine. That'd be great. Yeah, because that's just, I'm trying to find, you have the number of streets, but some of the streets are this long and some of them are this long versus the mileage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. I'm way off, actually. I was
It's okay.
thinking.
That's fine. No, I
was
put you
thinking
on the
of
spot.
Square mileage of all of Medford, sorry.
Yeah. No, we'll get the right answer. And then my second question is kind of a similar one. When we talk about the 200 locations, do you have that measured out? And I understand maybe they haven't entirely all been selected yet, but could you give that number in linear feet or mileage? Or could you give that to us going forward?
200 locations is what we end up doing.
We talk about what a location is, and a location can be anything from 1 panel to half a dozen panels.
Right.
Probably on average 2 to 3.
Okay.
So then, well, another reason why I like that monthly report idea better than providing the list up front is because we may end up on a street doing one location and then 10 feet away, that wasn't on the list. It wasn't on this.
Yeah.
And while we're here, we should do it anyway. There's quite a bit of that happens.
Yeah.
So sometimes we'll make the choice on the spot that day to go to that one over there, and even maybe across the street. Sometimes we'll say, boy, this whole block is bad. We need to do the whole block.
Right.
Sometimes. Anyway, but we don't think we have a specified location list at this point. Do we own? Do you have a list of specified locations at this point? Or just general areas?
General areas.
Okay.
But yeah, in the monthly report, that'd be great. I think it'd just be great to take the metric of a location, which is variable, and put it into a standardized metric that we did 1/2 mile of sidewalks this year, and, I don't know, that'd be valuable to me at least.
Yeah, we can think about it. And it's, I think, we're always looking for ways to report metrics. So it's
Yeah.
really good.
Great, thanks. I will stop belaboring the point at this point.
Counselor Carviallo.
Thank you, Madam President. And is there going to be a separate company grinding the low priority sidewalks, or the same company going to be doing all the same thing?
I do not have the answer to that, so I can find out.
That'd be good. And I live in a private way. And again, I don't know what it gets me, but back in the 70s and the 80s, before a lot of people were even born in this room, the city used to give you half the money to pave the street. And I remember where I live, we have there was 4 or 5 streets, and I think I paid about $800. And all the neighbors, we had, like Council Knight said, there was a contentious means they get 20 people to agree to pay the money, but I don't know if that's something that, if people,
I think that the council actually eliminated that.
I don't know, I don't remember if they
that
still,
policy at one point in time. Because
I don't know if they
grew up
still
in a
do
private
that.
way as well. We did the same thing, where all the neighbors chipped in.
yeah, we all chipped in. I think I paid about $800. I think we all paid about $800 a piece, and they did like four small streets. And again, now they're ready to be done again. But yes, I was curious to see if you have anybody that's going to be, just doing the grinding on the low priority, if it's going to be the same company or a separate company.
Well, he didn't know, but I'm exploring right now buying a
Grinder?
a small grinder machine just for sidewalks for the DPW, and do some training and seeing if we can do those types of just a heaved panel and grind off the top to reduce the tripping hazard. Instead of busting out the entire panel, pouring a new panel, we could take care of a lot of locations, just having an in-house grinding machine and not contracting out, just doing that piece in-house, because that's buying a machine, doing some training and working it into the schedule, as opposed to a whole other contract. That I think we should be doing that in-house anyway.
And, as we talked about doing sidewalks in private ways, a lot of residents are going to be a little shocked to find out how much property they don't have. Because over the years, you've sort of taken, your lawn has sort of kept on growing out toward the street. And, when you want, if they, at some point they want to come in and take a sidewalk, you're going to see how many walls and driveways are going to be coming down. So you should make people aware of that.
I think that, me saying not a hard no, Councilor Knight, right, is me sort of saying that there's a lot of work to do there and try to figure out, we really need some sort of a policy when it comes to private.
Because you have to put curbs, and you got to put curbs and sewers down on those streets that don't have them anymore.
Well, the city has interests in private ways. We have easement rights within private ways. So it's a question of, and I don't have the answer, where do you draw the line when it comes to public interest and public safety and the landowner rights of the fee owners of the land? And how that interplay works, and then add in the factor of, okay, now we want to spend public money on that private land. What does that look like, and what are our boundaries and constraints when we do that? And making sure we have that all worked out. But of course, it's past practice, and there are ways that we have been doing things. So I'm not stopping that in its tracks. I don't think that would work at all. So
Like I say, I think most of I would say, but a majority of the private ways don't have sidewalks.
Right.
Might see a sidewalk here and there on them, but the bulk of them don't have them. But I say, when you go to look at that, you can see a lot of unhappy neighbors when they come to find out where their land really ends.
Yes.
When you've taken that leeway over the years, it's just.
Sometimes they feel empowered though too, is now they realize that, I could do this without city involvement. And, so.
Thank
Thank you, Councilor Carviallo. Any further discussion? I do have one question. Sorry. Apologies, I know. You mentioned that thank you both for being here, by the way, the ADA compliant sidewalks being the highest priorities. Does that include, so you said, sorry, non-compliant. So is that just ramps that exist that are non-compliant, or are there spaces where there should be curb cuts also in that?
I believe they were both analyzed.
And did those places, I'm asking, I mean, I've been keenly focused on this. You can look at past resolutions. This is something I'm focused on, but as someone now who pushes a stroller around this city, hopping curbs in a stroller or any mobility device, anything like that is not fun. So I'm just curious about curb cuts, just personally.
So this contract is for repair.
Okay, so it wouldn't be anything new?
Correct.
Okay,
We are, working on other avenues for those curb cuts.
great, thank you. Counselor Sang?
The director mentioned in response to Councilor Caraviallo's question that you guys might be looking at getting an in-house grinder. Do you know what the timeline on that might look like? Would that be something within the next year, within a few years?
Well, it's a relatively low-cost piece of equipment,
Yeah.
so I'm hoping to have something, potentially even later this season. I've been doing the research to try to figure out what model to get, and talking to the crew about, what the capacity they have for learning and putting it into the schedule and things like that, so. But things are looking pretty good so far, lights are showing green, so I'm just gonna keep plugging down that path. As far as priorities go, I think, I share the priority of getting our pavement house in order. And I think continuing to work with our capacities that we currently have is important. And so seems to be like a low hanging fruit to me, to get something like that in house so we can work that into our schedule. So I would say sooner rather than later. It's a matter of making sure I understand how much one costs new and doing the procurement correctly and making sure that the guys can get trained, and I don't want to get it too early, I don't want to get it too late. So finding that sweet spot, making sure that when we buy it, it goes into operation, hopefully on day one, ideally with a piece of equipment. So I'm going to try to time it.
Great, and that would also affect which roads go out for, or which sidewalks go out first, right? Because, okay, great.
And that's really a tripping hazard type piece of equipment. So a panel shifts and we're just going to grind off the top of it and make it ADA compliant and remove the tripping hazard instead of replacing the whole panel.
Great, thank you so much. I think this presentation, in addition to answering our questions, also answers a bunch of questions from viewers at home. A lot of folks at home are watching, and I think, your presentation was very well put together, very compelling, and thank you for coming to City Council today.
Thank you, Counselor Singh. Any further discussion?
Madam President, I move for approval of paper 22317 and 22318.
I'd just like to make sure that that's for third reading.
So we do have a B paper from Counselor Scarpelli, if you want to take that first. So the B paper was to
I have a
ask
question.
DPW Commissioner for a monthly update on progress, or just,
That's,
okay.
it's understandable to me.
Yes, I agree to that.
Okay, thank you.
That'll be nice. That'll be helpful.
All right, thank you.
So on the B paper from Counselor Scarpelli, the motion of Counselor Scarpelli, second by Counselor Knight, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, the B paper passes. On the motion of Counselor, I don't have this page, that's why. On the motion of Counselor Knight to approve for a third reading, papers 22-317 and 22-318. Vice President Bears.
Just if we are going to do that, I do have a question on 22-318. And I do think they need to be separate roll calls for third reading.
Okay. So do you want to take the vote on 22-317 first?
Yeah.
So on the motion of Counselor Knight to approve for third reading 22-317,
Second.
second by Counselor Carviallo. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll when you are ready.
Vice President Bears.
Yes.
Counselor Carviallo.
Yes.
Counselor Collins.
Yes.
Counselor Knight.
Yes.
Counselor Scarpelli.
Yes.
Counselor Sang.
Yes.
President Morrell.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. The motion passes. And then 22-318, Vice President Bears, you have a question on this paper, which is eligible for third reading, and it is the loan order for stump removal bonds. Vice President Bears.
Yes. Thank you, Madam President. When this was presented in April, Chief of Staff Nazarian said that this would address 95% of the stumps in the city. And also, we've had some kind of ongoing issues with the stump dump. And the Chief of Staff said that none of these stumps would end up in the stump dump. And I just want to make sure from you folks that both of those facts are still true. Yeah, so the contractors are moving them, they're not going into the stump dump. But on the 95% question, is it going to address 95% of the stumps that are currently in the city?
Nina, give you that.
That's
I do
what
see
she said.
She is on the line.
Oh, great.
Chief of Staff Nazarian, if you could address that question.
Thank you very much. Good evening, President Morrell and members of the council. Thank you to our DPW commissioner and our city engineer for the work on the prior item. Vice President Bears, to answer your question, I have further clarification since the last meeting that there's some variation between the work that's conducted for stumps. In particular, I've learned that stumps that are not in sidewalks, that are not surrounded by concrete, are significantly less costly to remove than those that are surrounded by concrete. And I think DPW Commissioner McGivern could speak to that further if there are further questions. My understanding is there's a material cost divide between the two. And as a result, we're going to work to focus on stumps that are kind of, as has been stated, some of the easier stumps to remove that would be in areas that are not necessarily impacted. But again, there's that synergy that Commissioner McGivern spoke of as far as stumps, sidewalks, and how they interrelate. So unfortunately, I can't say it's 95% anymore because I've been educated on that subject, but there's a lot of stumps in this city, but I am happy that we have so many funding sources that are contributing into this project. Roughly, as you know, $600,000 with $250,000 from this proposed borrowing.
Thank you, Madam Chief of Staff. I guess what would be helpful then, if possible, if there's a total number of stumps in the city and how many may be removed by this project, and you don't have to have it now, but if you could just send that over. People
don't want to misspeak, but we can get you that information for sure.
Great.
Yeah.
And that would be really helpful. People talk about it a lot.
Absolutely, and we know that it's a priority as well. So that's another reason we're trying to get stumps in queue.
Great, thank you.
Any further discussion? On the motion of Counselor Knight to approve 22-318, second by Counselor Scarpelli, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice President Bears.
Yes.
Counselor Carviallo.
Yes.
Counselor Collins.
Yes.
Counselor Knight.
Yes.
Counselor Scarpelli.
Yes.
Counselor Singh.
Yes.
President Morrell.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, the motion passes.
Madam President,
Vice President Bears.
motion to take papers 20-078 and 20-573 for
Thank you
third
both.
reading.
On the motion of Vice President Bears to take 20-078 and 20-573 for off the table for third reading, second by Counselor Collins. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. 20-078, the polystyrene prohibition ordinance eligible for third reading on May 17, 2022. Do I have a motion? On the
Second.
motion of Vice President Bears to approve for third reading, seconded by Counselor Sang. Also wait for Counselor Carviallo.
This is polystyrene.
Correct.
Okay. So,
This is just Counselor Carviallo. This is the vote for 20-078 for third reading for the polystyrene ordinance.
so I'm ready to call the roll.
Okay, please call the roll. So
Aye.
we're taking the vote for, okay.
Vice President Bears.
Yes.
Counselor Carviallo. Counselor Collins.
Yes.
Counselor Knight. Counselor Scarpelli. Counselor Sang.
Yes.
President Morrell.
Yes. 5 in the affirmative, 2 in the negative, the third reading passes. 20-573, snow and ice removal ordinance, eligible for third reading, May 17th, 2022. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve for third reading.
On the
Second.
motion of Vice President Bears to approve a third reading, seconded by Counselor Sang. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Need a quick second, please. was Counselor, it was Vice President Bears and Counselor Singh.
Correct.
Vice President Bears,
Yes.
Counselor Carviallo. Counselor Collins,
Yes.
Counselor Knight. Counselor Scarpelli. Counselor Singh,
Yes.
President Morrell.
Yes, 5 in the affirmative, 2 in the negative. The third reading passes. Do I have a motion to revert to regular order of business?
So moved.
On the motion of Vice President Bears to revert to regular order of business, seconded by Councilor Carviallo, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Public participation. Do we have anyone either in person or on Zoom who would like to speak for public participation?
I see somebody with
Oh,
a
sorry.
hand raised.
Bill Giglio on Zoom, name and address for the record, please.
Hello?
Yes, Mr. Giglio, name and address for the record, please.
Oh, great, thank you. It's Bill Giglio, Winthrop Street, Medford. First, I'd like to say thank you to our Medford Police Department as we end the last day of the Police Appreciation Week. It's a little disappointing that the city doesn't really recognize this week as they do many others, and some even getting a full month of appreciation. So I would like to say thank you to the Medford Police Department. Second, and through the chair, hopefully, I'd like to express my extreme frustration and disappointment in council members Collins, Sang, Zach Beers, and President Nicole Morrell for their comments made about the Medford Police Department with members Kit Collins and Zach Beers demanding an apology for an incident that has not yet been investigated or concluded. Myself and many others feel that these type of actions from our elected officials are what continue to divide this city and make all citizens feel uneasy when it comes to the Medford Police Department. Although I know it probably won't happen, we kindly ask that you all rescind those comments made until there is a complete and final conclusion from that incident. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Giglio. Anyone else who would like to speak for public participation? Seeing none, that is the end of our agenda. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn, or we can? On the motion of Councilor Collins to adjourn, seconded by Councilor Sang. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Meeting is adjourned.